This episode of the Fiction Writers Podcast is brought to you by How to Write a Novel That Sells. Do you dream of writing a best-selling fiction novel? With the right tools, you could get there sooner than you think. Visit www.howtowriteanovelthatsells.com and unlock the secrets to writing compelling fiction taught by international best-selling author Lana Mcara. Welcome to the Fiction Writers Podcast with Lana Mcara, where you will discover tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. Here you'll find new energy, new perspectives, new resources, and new ideas that will spark your creativity into a blaze of brilliance. It's easier than you think. Be sure you visit our website at www.fictionwriterspodcast.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, get out your notebook, tune in, and let's get started.
Have you ever been discouraged because you feel like you've just got too much and it's overwhelming? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that today. My name is Lana Mcara, and welcome to the Fiction Writers Podcast. Tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. Today, I am delighted to welcome to our broadcast, Shanti Hershenson. Now, I had to interview this young lady because she is currently 16 years old, and she's already published several books, and they are amazing. Shanti Hershenson's first two novellas were published when she was in the 6th grade, although her writing journey started long before then. Ever since she could hold a pencil, a marker, or a crayon, she has been creating stories. They started from pictures and scribbles and eventually turned into captivating tales. Now, just to clarify, Shanti's Never Dying series currently has 3 books in it, and they have 400 pages. So don't think this is just some little children's book with a 12 pages or 20 pages. No, we're talking about full-length novels. Welcome, Shanti.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell me, how many books do you have now?
So, as of August 30th, I have 19 books published, but I have several more on my backlog.
Okay. We always have extras, don't we? Like,
yeah,
going at once. There are too many ideas out there to stop with, just the one you're working on. That's for sure. So what types of books have you written up to now? What genres have you written?
So I do a variety of genres, and I'm always looking to branch out. I'd say the majority of my books, though, are in the science fiction genre. That's where I started. That's where I'm still going with. However, I've recently finished this contemporary novel. And actually, book number 19 is my very first picture book. And that's very exciting. It's so new for me because I primarily just write young adult novels. So then going from that to writing a book that's for a much younger audience, and it's also much simpler, is so difficult to promote. But I'm doing it.
Yeah, good for you, because one of the things that I ran into when I was starting my career was I jumped around. I jumped around a lot. I started out doing historicals, and then I went to contemporary, and then, back and forth, because, we get ideas. We get ideas and we want to write them, right?
Yeah.
But you also have to brand yourself as an author so people know where to find you. Where are you on those bookshelves?
Yeah.
Yeah. So which one is your favorite?
Oh, good question. Okay, there's a couple different ways I could answer that. My favorite's always changing. I'd say so a book that I had actually released on my 16th birthday. It's called Helipads in Heaven. And that was a really personal book for me. It's about, of course, it's fiction because it's about an author time traveling to observe her younger self. But there were a lot of experiences within the book the main character goes through that were also things that had happened to me in some form. So in that way, that was a very personal, very healing book to write. However, the books, it's hard so I had this book come out in April called Little Green Man, and I've never thought of that as my favorite book I've written, but it's actually through the time that I was editing it, and then now that it's released and it's doing extremely well, it's really growing on me. it actually just won a silver medal in the Reader's Favorite Book Awards. And I was not expecting that. I have to admit, right before I published this book, when I was sending it out to ARC readers and stuff, I was like, well, I wrote this book when I was 14. And it's been like sitting there for 2 years. I've been editing it on and off. Like, I don't think this book is going to do well. And it's genuinely done better than like all of my other books, and it's continuing to do well. So in that regard, I also think That Little Green Man is one of my favorites. I'm really grateful I gave it a chance, and I've actually really now started to be really, really like, now that I've like published it, now I feel even more connected to the characters. I'm working on a sequel. So I can also say that that's one of my favorites. And then there's also Never Dying, which is like the classic. That was the book that like really had things take off. I had so much fun writing that. And there's one more book left in the series that I'm editing right now.
Okay. Yeah. It's like the ones that have some kind of personal application to you, they do better. It's just like energy or something.
Yeah.
So writing a novel is a complex process. How did you learn how to do it?
I have to say, I learned just from doing it. So the first book I ever wrote, I was 12 years old during the pandemic. It was not the novellas. This was after that. But I'm like on and off on whether or not I count those. I wrote 2 novellas with my friend and we published them to get copies. And that's how I learned how to self-publish. But the first like real big project I worked on was this book called Biomlock. I had no idea what I was doing at all. I'd never taken a writing class before. Honestly, like being an author was always something I really wanted to do. I never thought I could do it. It just so happened that because I had the time, like I started writing it. But I had no idea what I was doing. I just started writing the story and then I started like I had notes of like, well, I think this should happen. I swear there were so many ways in which like I formatted things. Like at one point all of the dialogue was italicized. It was very strange. And I had all this like weird spacing stuff and I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I didn't know how to write. I was 12 years old. And, so it was like, I swear, I look at the old drafts and I'm like, what was I doing? And it's like, it read like a middle grade book, but then it got like more mature as it went. It was a mess. But then once I really got into it, I started to learn more. I started to be like, well, what am I doing that I don't like? What do the authors I read do? And then from there, I really started learning. And then I finally met my writing coach. And then she really helped me realize, like, well, maybe this is working, maybe this isn't. And she's my editor, too, and still is, and has literally been with me since I was in 7th grade. Feel bad for her having to read the first draft of Biomlock. It was bad. But really, I just started learning, like, from experience. And then once I finished it, I had, like, just because I was writing every day, then by the end of that book, I was like a completely different writer. So you take like the beginning and the end and it's like 2 different, people writing it. So then I went back and I edited and that's just really how I grew and how I learned to write a novel. Now, of course, I'm a little more like systematic about it. Like I know a lot more now, but originally like it was just learning from doing it.
Wow, that is such a like common thread that I see. It doesn't matter how old you are to just get in there and do it. And then you did a wonderful thing. You got a coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't stress how important it is to have a mentor. Not even like when you're older too, like not even so much when you're like young, because it's like, and I also like, I am the biggest advocate for hire an editor, please. Like, do not edit your stuff yourself. There's always something you're going to miss.
Yes. You can't see it. You've looked at it a million times already. And
oh yeah,
notice the details anymore. Yeah, absolutely. So, book coach, an editor. Because my curiosity was, did you get, have a teacher in school that was encouraging you or something like that? Was there anything like that going on too?
It was a strange year. I started writing Biomlock the summer before 7th grade. And, at that point, we were entirely virtual for school. So I really, there was a bit of a disconnect with my teachers. Like, my 7th grade English teacher, she was amazing. And I remember I sent her the prologue, but it was a lot more like, I was on my own here. I'm the kind of writer that I don't let anyone read my writing before it's published. Only now I've started to, like, let my parents read my stuff. I don't know why. I'm just always like anxious. But now, I've done it so many times that I'm like, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
But with my early books, my parents were not allowed to read them until they were published.
Wow. Okay, that answered another question about getting help from one of your parents, and no, you didn't.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah. I understand that so well because, for one thing, unless they're writers themselves, they're just going to say, "Oh, that's nice."
yeah.
Don't really have good feedback, right? Because I don't really understand it. Yeah. So, where do you get your ideas from? Do you get them from like TV or somewhere, somebody that you're watching on social media, or how does it come?
I always say I get my ideas from everywhere. I think there's a variety of different factors that go into any idea I come up with. But a lot of the time it can be like I have a question, or like just like what if this happened? And then I'm like, that would make a really good book. Or there's like something that I've seen happen in the world, and then that like subconsciously inspires me. It's like even like sometimes I don't realize it, and I'm like, wait a second, this character reminds me of like this person, this like famous person. Um, and it's just really like subconscious. But also, sometimes I'll be like watching something. For example, going back to Biomlock again. I haven't talked about Biomlock in a minute, so but like you can tell that I really like Star Wars and like the action. Like I was just talking to my dad about this actually the other day, to be fair. And we were like, really like it's kind of like just the way I wrote like the action was like very Star Warsy, even if the actual plot wasn't too reminiscent of Star Wars. Like they were just like the little things that you can tell like this is what I was really into at the time. And also like one more thing that often gives me ideas sometimes is I have crazy dreams. Like,
Mhm.
and then I write that down. For example, like one of my books, The Bane of Angel Fall Academy, the entire setting was just inspired by this like dream I had.
Okay. Okay. So your mind is working while you're sleeping,
Oh yeah.
waking up to it. When I'm in the middle of a book myself, I've written 44 published novels,
Oh, that's
uh,
amazing.
written and ghostwritten. For other people, I write for other people. That's how I make a living is by ghostwriting. Sometimes I'll wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, have to dash to the computer as fast as I can go so I can capture it before I forget. So, do you have a journaling practice, or how do you keep it when you have an idea?
So on my phone, I have a list of ideas in my notes app. Thankfully, I keep my phone right next to me. I used to when I was in middle school, like, I would have to put my phone downstairs, or I think I would charge it like in the bathroom. And in that case, like I couldn't just go down and get my phone. So I would literally grab anything. Like I have these pieces of like cardboard that I just found in my room from like boxes. I think that was probably like when we were just like moving into our house. And then I just have these random ideas scribbled on them. And or like I've written stuff like on right now I have a whiteboard in my room that I occasionally like plan things on, but I just write stuff down
Yeah, yeah,
anywhere. Just get the idea
yeah.
out. I've
Got
written in other books before. Like they're just sitting next to me.
Wow, yeah. We got to catch it because if you don't, you forget.
Yeah.
Do you plan your books out or do you just sit down and just keep writing?
I jump between how to answer that question. Ultimately, I think the way I write leans more into like being a pantser and just like going and doing it. But also I find that I'm also a little more in the middle. I have what I tend to do is I start with like maybe a few ideas, maybe I know the general idea of the story, and then I just get into it. Other times though, I have like I know like everything. But I don't necessarily write it down in a very like uniform way. I'm more like as I'm writing, I just start having all these ideas and I write them down in my notes. And then by the midpoint of the story, I usually know how it's going to go. Right now, however, with the book I'm writing right now, I am 140,000 words into it. This is the sequel to Little Green Man. Um, I believe this is two books that I've been writing as one book because like, there's a clear point in which like I should just, split it instead of publishing a really, really like a double the length of the first book. But right now, like I know almost everything that's gonna happen up until the ending. I have no idea how it's gonna end.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah. the ending sometimes has to tell you itself
Yeah.
as you go. Yeah, really. So who does your website? You have a website, shantihershenson.com.
Yeah.
I want to invite everybody to go over there and take a look. Who did that for you?
Oh, I did my website.
You did that too? I was
Yeah. I actually my original like I have a bit of a background in like computer programming and like web design. I used to when I was a kid, that's what I wanted to be when I was older, and I would take all these classes. So but my website was done on Wix, but it does really help like knowing all that stuff. I will say that I do want to redesign my website soon. I've had the same website since I started. The same like background and everything. But I think it's time for a remodel. But
hmm Yeah, I think that's ongoing. Everybody wants to refresh their website after a couple of
oh
years.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have a wonderful author page on Amazon. I went over
Yeah.
and looked at it. So did you get help with that, or do you do that yourself too?
That was another thing I learned how to do myself. A lot of this was just like, I just kind of was like, what does this button do? And it was like create your author page. I will say, one thing that really, really helped with all of these like little like publishing like tidbits of like, little like self-publishing knowledge that maybe you wouldn't necessarily know is when I was writing my first book, one thing I would do to unwind is I would like watch a movie that I've already seen because I'm the kind of person who loves rewatching things. And then I would also sit there on my computer and I would just be researching all of these like marketing and publishing things, kind of as like motivation.
Yeah.
But that might have been something that I like learned through reading random articles and blog posts.
Right. Right. I guess we all do that in YouTube videos and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Yeah. Just about anything's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how about Book Talk? Are you on Book Talk?
I am.
I was in a Books a Million a couple days ago, and they have an entire huge shelf with a big sign that says Book Talk on top of it. So I just want to encourage everybody that's listening, if you're not on TikTok, you need to get on TikTok because this bookstore actually is bringing into their store the books that are on TikTok, and they call it Book Talk, but it's TikTok. So,
Yeah.
what about social media? Do you just do books on it, or are you on it for friends too, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I because I'm so like, literally basically my life revolves around my career, but at the same time I really do try to have a normal social life and a normal like teen experience. And so on TikTok, like my biggest platform is TikTok. I have this, my big writing account. I have 60,000 followers and it's been amazing. I also have a private account on TikTok where I just post whatever. And the same goes for Instagram too. I have like my main Instagram account, which is like all of my professional stuff. And they also have a private social media for like, people I know in real life to follow. Because I don't want to, when like I make a new friend and they ask for my Instagram, I don't want to just like give them my like, professional account.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of those links are going to be on your show page at fictionwriterspodcast.com. I just want to let everybody know to go over there. And then this is also going to be posted on YouTube. So under there in the description, there will be all the links as well. So everybody can follow you and so forth. So let's see. How do you get it all done? That's
Good question.
we'll say, yeah. How do you
Yeah. So I've gotten really good at time management, but then also I say this every single time I'm asked, every single interview, the most helpful thing has been having a like really, put together like there's a word I'm looking for that I'm forgetting. A really consistent, there we go, a really, really consistent writing schedule. So I write 1,000 words every single day, no matter what. I've done 1,000 words literally since I was in 7th grade. Like, I really don't miss a day. The last time I missed a day, I was like extremely sick. So, and I couldn't get out of bed. But when I had a concussion and I still did my 1,000 words. I don't recommend that actually because that was not safe. But that's the thing. That's what's been really helpful for me is just sitting down and doing it every day. And at first, I'll admit it was hard. Sometimes I was like, well, I don't know what to write. I don't know what's going to go here. I need to think about it. But now that it's been, 3 years, 4 years, I really do feel like I have it down. It's just like second nature to me. So, and then sometimes I'll do more, but like over the summer, except not last summer because I was so busy. But like the summers where we were under lockdown and stuff, I would just literally sit and write all day. And I was getting at like 4,000 or 5,000 words. It was insane. But my point is, it's just like writing every single day just has been, a game changer.
Yes, it keeps your head in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could pick up where you were and you don't have to think about, well, 2 weeks have passed by. Where was I?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, this has been great. So do you have anything you'd like to leave us with, like advice for writers that might be watching and struggling to get their first book done?
Ooh, good question. So other than writing every day, I really think, try not to let your head get in the way. Don't overthink it. I find too often, writers overthink the writing process and they're like, well, is this, they think about every single word. There's time for that. And the first draft is not the time. You really just have to get the words out, just write the story, and then you have time to really shape it and make it as perfect as it can be later.
Mm-hmm.
And also, nothing's ever perfect. I think, you can it's really, like a lot of authors focus on like the book is never complete. And I think there is a point where you have to step away from it because soon it's like, and because you keep growing too, you're always going to have something you want to change. And then, you keep editing the same book over and over and over again for years, and it's going to be a completely different book. But it might not even be any better.
Right. Good point. It might not be better. It might actually be worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to know when to quit. That's really, really good advice. Wonderful advice, Shanti, for any age and any writer in the world could
Thank you.
That and do better. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. This has been great.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for being with us. This is Lana Mcara. See you next time.
Thank you for tuning into the Fiction Writers Podcast with Lana Mcara, where we share tips, tricks, and ideas for fiction that is #unputdownable. Remember to visit our website at www.fictionwriterspodcast.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Fiction Writers Podcast.